Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Ham Nation is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
Ham Nation is brought to you by Icom. Take Icom with you en route, on location, and on the go. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation.
This is Ham Nation, episode 94 for April 17th, 2013. Tim and Ray at TWiT. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of Ham Nation. I'm George Thomas, W5JDX, down here in Jackson, Mississippi. Bob Heil is not with us tonight. He's still on the road with Joe Walsh, but should be back next week. Don Wilbanks is also out this week as well, but we do have the Newsline report from him coming up a little bit later. And let's go out to the left coast now and say hello to our buddy Gordo. Hi, Gordo.
Well, hi there, everyone. Yes, I'm fully clothed, and no, the FCC has not yet made up their mind as to what they're going to do with that proposed rule. Actually, not a proposed rulemaking, but a proposal to think about the four-letter words and the frontal nudity. Still working on that. Contact the American Radio Relay League and let them know what you think, and hopefully you'll support clean language and clean looks right here on the ham radio bands. George, back to you.
Yeah, I read something earlier today, Gordo, where, and I hate to quote the number because I'm probably wrong, but they had maybe gotten like over 50,000 replies negative for them making any changes to it or relaxing those rules. So I think your exhibition last week must have pushed a lot of people in that direction.
Roger that.
And we've also got our good friends Tim and Ray out in Petaluma at the Brick House tonight. Hi, guys. What are y'all doing out there?
We're trying to stay out of trouble and also working on Leo's station here.
Yeah, we had a great day in sunny California, up on the roof and stringing coax and listening to the noise of Petaluma. So, unfortunately, the noise won.
Yes, it did.
Wow.
And it wasn't from the lack of trying. We had a Pixel Technologies magnetic loop, and it's worked in so many different areas, but there's just so much noise here.
So much. And that Pixel loop, I can't say enough good about the construction, and it works great at my station back in Pennsylvania, and a lot of guys have had success with it. So we really appreciate Pixel for giving us a chance and an opportunity to try it here. We knew the deck was stacked because Gordo and Bob Heil and several other guys, even the local guys here in Petaluma, have tried.
Oh, yeah.
And have not been able to solve this problem. But when I asked Leo, I said, how many wall warts do you think are in the TWiT brick house here? There could be several hundred wall warts.
Oh, yeah, easily.
And between all the cameras and all the RF noise here, it's just insurmountable.
And it's not including all the starters for the lights in here and everything else electrical. So it started out as 20 over S9. Once we moved it around, we were able to get about an S5 floor noise, but there again, we might not have had good propagation today, but it just really didn't look good.
No. So we move on. We know what doesn't work now.
Yes.
So.
Well, that's good to know, I guess. Well, I hate that it hadn't worked out, but boy, what a challenge. I guess in the case of noise, though, Gordo, if it's strong enough, how can you get around it? You can't, I guess.
You're right about that. In fact, our feature on noise about 2 weeks ago prompted one of our locals to come and fetch me and say, can you identify this noise? So for those of you listening and watching, you mainly have to listen to this one. Take a listen to this noise and see if you can figure out what it is.
Wow, that's a crazy one.
Wow.
There it is, a fluorescent tube in the local motorhome next door to the neighbor. So the 12-volt fluorescent is extremely noisy, but then the question comes up, how about the new 12-volt CFLs? Well, we've got the receiver right here. I'll turn up the volume. We've got a nice station tuned in. Let's try the new 12-volt CFL. Nothing. Nice and quiet. So if you've got the old-fashioned fluorescents, 12 volts, time to get them out of circuit, because you do not want to have to put up with that noise that makes a sweeping sound. So that was our big find, and that was noise from a plain old 12-volt fluorescent tube. So keep your little shortwave receivers handy, or even a little AM/FM radio like this one from C. Crane. Tune in the background noise and then start sniffing around and try and locate that noise. And I know today up at the TWiT studio, both Tim and Ray were doing just that. Okay, back to you, George Gordo, on noise.
Okay, well, there you go, guys. Did y'all try that, moving around, seeing if you could identify any particular source, or was it just pretty much universal everywhere you went?
It seemed to be universal everywhere we went. I was on the roof with Burke, and Tim was down here playing with the radio.
Yeah, we tried a lot of different locations with the antenna, and even down at ground level. And when you can't hear WWV, you know that you're out of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much probably stray RFI running around that building. I know here in my studio, HDMI cables cause a large problem with interference on UHF. If I've got a handy talkie in here and I fire up this monitor I use right here with the HDMI running into it, it'll break the squelch on the handy talkie there and make it act up. And I know there at TWiT, there's no telling how many miles of network cable run around the building, as well as the SDMI or SDI video cables, which I have no experience with, so I don't know what kind of noise they generate. But yeah, probably really worse, way worse than average case there, because there's so many different frequencies going on there. Even though they're in wires, I mean, we know this stuff still radiates out. But what else is going on? I know y'all certainly didn't make a trip out there just for the noise. What else is going on out in Northern California?
Well, we came here to see what we could hear, and we also wanted to talk a little bit about one of the projects that we're doing next month. Contest University will be going on at the Dayton Hamvention. So we thought it would be a great opportunity. Both Ray and I are out here in California for the International DX Convention down in Visalia this weekend. And we hope to see a lot of the Ham Nation guys down there. But if not, definitely out at Hamvention. And Gordon's been talking about Hamvention for several weeks. And we really are excited about Contest University this year, which occurs on the day before the Hamvention opens.
Yes, it does. And this morning we started lining up some things that we're going to be doing with it. One of the sponsors for the event.
And here's the website. This is contestuniversity.com. And on here you can see some pictures from past contest universities. This is just for all contesting, whether you're starting out or you want to learn some new tips. And a lot of guys that are operating field day will come out to Contest University to pick up some ideas. And so it's a great opportunity to meet other contesters and share ideas. There is even a webinar link that we have up on the page over on the right-hand side.
But I want to jump in here real quick. If you take a look at the 2013 CTU professors, if you look through the magazines for the contest winners and the teams and things like that, you're going to recognize a lot of these call signs. And it's not only the guys that are in the battle of the contest, but they're also the guys that have learned things over the years, and they're there to help share what they've learned.
Yes, I mean, this is what amateur radio is all about, and where guys are sharing their knowledge. I mean, Ray, everything that we learned from somebody else. You know, somebody shared with us. And so this is a great opportunity for these professors to share ideas. And there's also these small group sessions in the afternoon where students get to sit down and talk about ideas and ask questions and bring up different topics. So it really is about sharing all of these things at Contest University. And
it's not only the guys that are part of your contest crew either. I noticed the number 3 guy right there always gives you fits in the contest and is right there with you in the multi-multis. So, I mean, it's just not Tim and his buddies. It's from all over.
It's from all over, and it's great competition. I mean, without having good guys and good stations to share, I mean, there wouldn't be, you know, this sub-hobby. I look at contesting as a sub-hobby of amateur radio. It's just one of the things. And so many different topics are talked about here on Ham Nation. And we're excited about Contest University. And also, George had visited last year, and it was a great opportunity for him to see, you know, what was going on there. And we'll be doing some new and exciting things this year for the first time. So we encourage everybody to take a look at the website. And there's also the contest dinner on Saturday night. We'll be talking about that too. Here's the schedule that will, you know, we start at 7 o'clock in the morning with breakfast. Classes start promptly at 8 o'clock and go all the way till 5. There are 19 different presentations that are given. So there's a lot going on, and then there's 10 of these small group sessions for a lot of Q&A. So the latest radio ideas are presented. Rob Sherwood, who is really the expert on radios and receivers, presents the final session. So it's a great opportunity, and there's a lot of involvement by the professors here at Contest University. So
I think that's right. Now, Tim and Ray, let me ask, must you be with a huge tower and a 5-element monobander to really take in Contest or University, or can those of us with a more modest system learn a whole bunch on just good operating?
There is a lot of sessions that are just on operating and are on, you know, using very simple, affordable antennas, you know, wire antennas and small Yagis. And a lot of these guys that teach have experience with 100-watt contesting and QRP contesting. So I think that this is, you know, it's an opportunity for operators to get better.
And I know I attended one time and learned a lot of things about the strategy for what bands at what times. And this past year, I entered the CQ Worldwide as a single operator, low power. And there's different categories if you look at where you don't have to have the big multi stations to really get in and be competitive and be at the top of the list, if not at the top.
No, and even mobile contesting is a big growth area. Oh, yeah. So I think that we spend a lot of time talking about operating, Gordo.
VHF contesting, UHF contesting as well, rover strategies, things like that. So it's not just the big multis where you've got stacked antennas.
So you don't have to have a legal limit amplifier to be successful at contesting?
No, I think some of the most successful contesters are those guys that are doing it with 5 watts or 100 watts. Wow. I mean, that's all about operating. That's more about the operator. So, oh, no, kudos to those guys.
And a lot of those strategies can be applied for field day. A few years back, I was part of a group that ran 4 Alpha, and the things that we learned in the very first Contest University we used and applied, and it helped us take that category that year. And that's not legal limit amplifiers either.
And Field Day is the most popular operating event here in the U.S., so there's a lot of touch with that. One of the other things is the Dayton Contest Dinner. This is the 21st annual Dayton Contest Dinner, and that's on Saturday night. And that website is contestdinner.com. And Bob Cox, K3EST, will be the featured speaker.
I like the prize.
Yeah, and the prize is an Icom IC 7600. So, yeah, and KB8 VAO from Youngstown, Ohio won it last year. So that was a very cool thing.
Oh, and you guys will let John Dorr to be the MC again.
John Dorr is back again. And the other thing that is a lot of fun is the contest super suite that we have. And that's 4 nights. It's hosted by the North Coast Contesters. And we have a pizza party every night. And on Friday night, we have the Spurious Emissions Band. And so these are some familiar tunes with all ham radio lyrics.
I think Ward Silver.
Ward Silver is the leader of the band.
And then Sean
Kutzko
from ARRL.
Yeah, KX9X. And Scott Robbins from Vibraplex, W4PA, and Kirk, K4RO. And maybe even a few guests will appear.
And why you got some of the North Coast Contesters, FRC, PVRC, and YCCC, go there and be seen and let your contest club be known that you were there. And then I think the Kansas City DX Club, or is it the Kansas City Contest Club, has a CW contest there as well.
Yeah, the CW contest is on Saturday night up in Suite 525 at the Crown Plaza, and that's an annual event, so there's a lot going on. At the Crown Plaza with Contest University and the Contest Super Suite and the Contest Dinner and the Top Band Dinner. So there's something to do every night, and come down and meet and greet and have fun.
And there's actually some of those guys that never leave that Crown Plaza.
Yeah, they never even go out to the Hamvention.
They just go there for the weekend to hang out there.
So it's a fun time. And
wow, it is. That's really something. And, we encourage, though, all of you to, beside doing the Crown Plaza contest for days and days, to get out to Dayton. And I remind everybody that it's a 3-day deal. May 17, 18, and 19, Friday all day, Saturday all day, and Sunday to about 1 o'clock, and then they have the big prize drawing. But I'll tell you a secret. Try and get there a little bit early, like a day early, and figure out a way to get into the swap meet as they're setting up outside with their acres and acres of swap spots, and you really get some good deals before it officially opens on Friday. So if you're swapping and you've got a swap spot, bring in a friend or two and then look around, because that's when the really good deals are. Remember, Friday, Youth Forum, Carol Perry, WB2, Mighty Good Professor, 10 to about 12 o'clock, one of the big seminars that draws hundreds of kids. And then and that's for instructors on teaching the kids. And then on Saturday, 9:15 to 12:15, that's when you find a ton of kids for the all-morning youth forum. And that's where we're going to find that a young ham is going to land a real nice $100 reward, a little stipend for their help with working with other folks, either on the air or off the air. So we hope everybody will attend a lot of forums at the Dayton Hamvention, and you can go to hamvention.org and look at all of those forums coming up. So let me go back to Ray and see what else Ray and Tim may have to add to seeing all the inside exhibits.
Oh, definitely see the inside exhibits. Come by the Icom booth and see what we've got going on there. We're also a big supporter of Carol Perry and her kids. We give them radios for doing the presentations there, so we want to make sure they get there and talk about the excitement of the hobby.
And I know W5KUB will have his live feed from the Hamvention, and I know he does a lot of interviews and goes up to a lot of the various vendors and the dealers. So even if you can't attend at Hamvention, you've got you can get on live.
And there's something going on in that hallway that connects the main area. What is that? Audio Alley?
Yeah.
That's not only Audio Alley, but it's going to be the Ham Nation's booth at the Hamvention was nice enough to give us a nice 10-foot spot. And I'll let George and then Bob next week will be telling you about all of the excitement out of the booth. But you know, the best excitement is we're going to have many of our net control operators right after this cast come on, and you'll meet them live and direct. A lot of viewers and listeners will be helping staff the booth. And then we go live with Leo Laporte on Saturday over AM radio, hundreds, if not thousands of stations all across the country. So we're going to expose ham radio big time at Dayton. And we look forward to everybody stopping by to say not only hi to Bob and Sarah and all the High L gang, but also next door, those of us in the Ham Nation booth. And I hope you'll stop and see me in the W5YI booth, where I'll be dressed up as an instructor as usual.
And also, I suspect the Tech Guy Show runs on FM radio as well. I've forgotten how many affiliates Leo has now on that, but it's a huge number, and we're looking forward to having a few minutes to chat with him during the show on Saturday from Hamvention. And as Gordo mentioned, you know, we're going to have a booth there located in Audio Alley, as well as, you know, we've got a forum for Ham Nation going there where we'll be doing some taping and such. And we need a little bit of help manning those things, helping us get gear in and out and one thing or another. And if you're going to be at Hamvention and you've got a little bit of time you could contribute, we don't want to take everyone's full attention, but I mean, if you've maybe got an hour here or there that you could volunteer some time to kind of help out, well, please contact Dale Puckett, K0HYD. He's leading up that for us, and it's K0HYD at ARRL.net. And Dale will get you scheduled in there. And there's going to be a special event, stations operating from there as well to celebrate the 100th episode of Ham Nation. So from May the 15th through the 29th, be listening around for Mike, W6H, Dale, N0H, Al, W1H, or Bill, N5H, and try to work those special event stations. They're going to have some type of award certificate to give out to whoever works them all. It's not finalized yet, but I've seen some previews of what they're working on there, and it looks mighty nice. And Ray and Tim, let me ask y'all, can you hang around a little while? We're going to get Cheryl in here with the chat room after a while.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there's people in the chat room that's going to have questions for y'all. So if you can hang around with us, we'll get back with y'all when Cheryl gets here and try to answer a few questions.
And George, in back of me is the Amateur Television Network, and I see them waving behind me over my shoulder, and they're saying, be sure and let everybody know that they're going to have an ATN booth for the entire Dayton Hamvention. They'll have the magazine, ATBQ, with Bill Brown as the editor-in-chief and Mike Collis there as well. But most important, we have an ATV get-together on Saturday afternoon in one of the forum rooms, and everything you want to know about amateur television that you see going on over my back shoulder. Back to you, George.
Yeah, and of course, Julian and my partner, Tommy Martin, and myself are going to be running around with cameras, shooting a lot of video and bringing it back for review afterwards. So if you can't make it to Hamvention, you know, we'll have some follow-up for you, as well as what Tom, W5KUB, will have on his website, Stream Live. Well, as I mentioned earlier, Don Wilbanks is not with us this week, but he did record the Newsline for us before he left. And let's take a look at that now and see what's going on in the world of amateur radio this week.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 1861, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, April 17th, 2013. The Dayton Amateur Radio Association has withdrawn its 2013 Radio Amateur of the Year award. In early March, the Dayton Hamvention Awards Committee announced that it had selected Captain Mustafa Landolsi, DL1 BDF, as its choice for 2013 Radio Amateur of the Year. But on April 4th, the Hamvention announced that Landolsi would not be getting the award after all. In fact, this year, nobody will. Amateur Radio Newsline's Stephen Kinford, N8WB.
The announcement of the decision to rescind the award came in a posting to the Hamvention website and also distributed on the Hamvention's Yahoo Group's remailer. Both said, and we quote, "We have received conflicting information from credible sources regarding the accuracy of the winning nomination. The general chairman of Hamvention this year, Charles Kaiser, received these reports and followed up to verify their accuracy. Unfortunately, this changes the way we score for the Amateur of the Year award, and since the competition was close with other nominees, the outcome would have been different. Based on all this research, the decision has been made by the Hamvention general chairman not to award the Amateur of the Year for 2013. Captain Landolsi is a retired Lufthansa airline pilot. He has been named recipient of the award for his ongoing work in promoting and developing amateur radio in the Middle East and for organizing delivery of emergency medical equipment and medication to countries in Africa. There was no indication from the Hamvention or its awards committee as to the nature of the conflicting information or any additional details regarding this action. In reply to our request for comment on this situation, Captain Landolsi responded in part, "That is not the award cancellation that make him sad. He notes that he already has a number of awards, but that collecting awards has not been his goal in life. Rather, giving to others and helping everyone he can is what his life is all about." DL1 BDF added that he will have a more in-depth statement for release shortly.
This is the first time since the Radio Amateur of the Year was created back in 1955 that it's been withdrawn after being announced. And as far as we can determine, it's also the first time that the award will not be presented. Ham Radio is now contributing directly to some vital space research. TurboCode software written by AMSAT DL is now in use on the twin NASA stereo spacecraft. Here's Norm Seeley, KI7UP.
According to Amstead, Germany, on April 2nd, the two NASA stereo space-based solar observatories permanently switched to TurboCode to transmit their real-time space weather data back to Earth. A network of 4 ground stations located in Germany, France, Japan, and amateur radio station DL0SHF in Germany received the data and used software also written by Amstead, Germany, to decode it. The switch to TurboCode has reportedly improved reception capabilities of the ground stations by about 2 dB. This is a very welcome improvement given that the two stereo spacecraft are currently 269 and 286 million kilometers respectively away from Earth.
STEREO stands for Solar Terrestrial Relations Observatory. It's a solar observation mission using nearly 2 identical spacecraft. They were launched in 2006 into orbits around the Sun that caused them to respectively pull farther ahead of and fall gradually behind the Earth. This enables stereoscopic imaging of the sun and other solar phenomena like coronal mass ejections and the like. And speaking of CMEs, a strong M6 class solar flare has hurled a coronal mass ejection towards the Earth. This after the magnetic field of sunspot AR1719 erupted at 0716 UTC on April 11th. Geomagnetic storms and high-latitude auroras were being predicted when the fast-moving ionized cloud was to reach our planet on April 13th. Solar forecasters believe that radio, television, satellite, and other communications would likely be affected for several days afterward. Keep an eye on spaceweather.com for the latest updates. And finally this week, the story of some retirement villages that not only approve of ham radio, they even provide places from where residents can get on the air. Amateur Radio Newsline's Mark Abramovich, NT3V.
81-year-old Tom Morgan, W4UTK, has use of 3 operating ham radio stations, complete with a 500-watt amplifier in a comfortable ham shack at the Embers Retirement Community. The location and equipment were all made possible by Brad Lee, W0VFT of Phoenix, Arizona. Lee is identified as the CEO of Trilogy Embers. That's the company that owns Embers and a number of other retirement centers in the United States. We say this is a great way to support the senior citizens of ham radio who have contributed so much to this nation and to the hobby and the amateur radio service.
The Times-Republican story notes that Marshalltown resident Tom Morgan, W4UTK, has been a ham radio enthusiast much of his life. Also that he knew he wanted to become an electrical engineer by the time he was age 12. We should all be so lucky to end up in a place like that in our twilight days. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news, brought to you each and every week for 35 years and counting at www.arnewsline.org. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW73. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now let's talk about Icom. You know, springtime is here, and it's time to take ham radio on the road. If you're looking for a reliable 2-meter mobile for your next trip, maybe you're looking for a mobile dual bander with D-Star. En route, on location, on the go, Icom has you covered with great mobile operations. Let's start with the rugged military spec 2-meter Icom 2300H. This thing has 65 watts of stable output power, oversized tuning dial, very easy to use, large, bright alphanumeric display, 3 backlight options on this, built-in CTCSS and DTCSS encoder, decoder, 4.5 watts of loud audio. You're going to hear this thing. And over 200 memory channels and multiple scan options. Here's another great choice, the ICV8000, 75 watts of 2-meter power, rugged die-cast aluminum chassis, fast memory channel scanning with dynamic memory scan, complete radio control in the palm of your hand with a versatile hand mic, backlight customizations, weather scan alert, and amateur radio first. If you're involved in search and rescue, couple of great choices for you. And in fact, over the weekend, I tracked a amateur radio balloon launch, a high-altitude balloon launch. If you were out on a tracking team with this, traipsing through the woods, maybe driving a Jeep trying to find where the balloon went down, great choices. Now, let's talk about global communications. D-Star. D-Star on the go is so easy with the ID880H. This is a 50-watt output power mobile, 3 power settings, VHF, UHF dual band functionality, very simple band switching system, good menu structure, it's easy to program, large backlit display, the buttons are sturdy knobs, over 1,000 memory channels, and free programming software available online. You know my motto, if it's free, it's for me. Great radio. Also, the 2820H mobile D-Star upgradable, GPS capable. This is another great radio. 50 watts of output power on both VHF and UHF. True dual watch receiver capabilities. 2 bands simultaneously, VHF and UHF at the same time, couple of VHF at the same time, couple of UHF at the same time. It's your choice with this radio. Large adjustable LCD, great for finding other stations with the band scope function. And the features practically multiply with the DV mode and the GPS alarm, location tracking. There is so much in this. You really have to go to icomamerica.com/hamnation to find out more on the Icom line of HF, VHF, and UHF radios. There's a radio for whatever you need to do. While you're there, enter Icom's weekly drawing for Icom swag, like the T-shirts, the hats. Find out how you can be a monthly grand prize drawing winner for free Icom radio. That's right. George has more information on that. Just go to icomamerica.com/hamnation. All the official rules are there. You can check out all of Icom's previous drawing winners. You could see your name there very soon. So sign up and good luck. Go to icomamerica.com/hamnation. George, tell us about this radio that Icom's giving away, my friend.
Yeah, Don, go there right after the show today. As a matter of fact, go after each episode of Ham Nation and register for that swag. And when you do that, you're also going to be automatically entered in the contest to win a monthly radio giveaway. And the prize for this month is going to be that nice ID51A, the new feature pack dual band, dual watch D-Star handheld that extends coverage, display, and capabilities without sacrificing size and usability. So go to icomamerica/hamnation and register today. Someone's going to win it. It might as well be you. Well, this week on Smoke and Solder, we're going to get back to that AM/FM radio kit I've been building. I've got it here, but I'm not picking up anything yet, Gordo. So it's apparently there's some places for some more parts here yet. So let's look at this week's part of the project. This week on Smoke and Solder, we're going to continue our Build at Home series with the AM/FM radio kit Part 4, the AM detector and AGC stage. If you'd like to build along, you can get the kit from parts-express.com. It's part number 320-084. The first thing we need to install is the AM/FM band selector switch. That goes right up here near the power supply. And we'll install jumper J2 right here. And these won't take but a moment. And now we'll move on to C34, which is 100 microfarad. And C34 goes right here. It's polarized, so we look, one side is marked negative here. and the positive lead is usually the longer of the two. So we'll make sure we've got the polarity correct. And then we'll need T6, which is the AMIF coil. It's got a yellow slug here in it, so you want to make sure you got the right one. There are several of these coils in the kit. And there's also a center tap here. There's 3 leads on one side and 2 on the other, so you really can't put it in backwards. And we're going to need R35, and we'll install test point 5 right here. Then we'll need C32, which is a 10 microfarad electrolytic capacitor. Once again, polarized. So let's make sure we get the polarity correct on this. R36, C33, R38, test point 3. T8 is the AMIF coil, and it's the one with the black slug in the middle here. D4, which is a 1N4148. The end with the black band on it goes in the direction of the arrow. And C38 and R42. Now let's solder these components in. Now you'll notice that there's transistors here in this stage, but we didn't put them in this time. We're just building the detector in the AGC stage. So we've got some tests to run now. We're going to do the AGC zero signal bias test. So we'll connect one lead of our voltmeter here to ground, which was up here at test point 15. We'll turn the meter on, put it on 20 volts, and we'll make sure that the AM/FM switch here is in the AM position. That's on this side. And we'll turn the power on, and now we'll measure right here at TP5. And here we expect 1.5 volts, so we're good on that. Now we need to turn the power off and connect the positive lead to TP3, which is this one up here, and the negative lead to ground. Make sure that the voltmeter is set where it can read 9 volts. Turn the power on, and the voltage should be the same as the battery voltage or the power supply voltage. So let's turn it on, and let's measure here. We've got 9.51. Let's just measure it on the battery to be sure it's the same. 9.51 there, so we're good on that test. I wanted to run all the tests on this stage, but I don't own an RF signal generator anymore. I hope to borrow one, and then next week we'll take a look at those tests. Turns out that's not quite true. I have a General Radio 1310B oscillator, which I always thought was just an audio oscillator until I got to looking a little closer, and this thing goes from 2 hertz to 2 megahertz. So it'll easily accommodate 455 kilohertz, and I've tuned it in here for that frequency. And we've got our oscillator connected to test point 3 here, but we have a 0.001 microfarad capacitor in series with that. And we're going to measure at test point 5. We've got our meter set to 2 volts DC, and we see we've got 1.526. And what we do is just start to increase the output until we notice the voltage change on the meter over there. So right about here we see the voltage start to change. What that tells us is we've reached the AGC threshold, and we'll write down the measurement for that. I took my scope and measured across the output here off camera. When I did that, I had 150 millivolts. Now we've got one other test to do, and this one should be done with 1 kilohertz modulation at 80%. Now, this oscillator is not really made to be modulated. However, there is a sync input here on the side where you could synchronize it with other gear, and it turns out that if you inject an audio signal into that, you can get a little modulation. It'll be only 10%, but maybe that'll tell us something. That's a lot less than the 80 that they call for here, but we'll try it and see. And the test is to turn the volume up all the way on the receiver and then increase the signal until we hear a 1 kilohertz tone. It's not going to be loud with 10% modulation, so I'm going to move the microphone over where you can hear it. So it appears our AM detector is working. Let's talk a moment about the AF detector and AGC stages and how they actually work. The purpose of the detector is to change the amplitude modulated IF signal back to an audio signal. This is done by a process called detection or demodulation. First, the amplitude modulated IF signal is applied to a diode in such a way that it only leaves the negative portion of the signal. The diode acts as an electronic check valve to only let current pass in the same direction as the arrow in the diode symbol. When the diode is conducting, it'll force capacitors C33 and C38 to charge to approximately the same voltage as the negative peak of the IF signal. After the diode stops conducting, the capacitors will discharge through resistors R36 and R42. The discharge time constant must be small enough to follow the audio signal, or high-frequency audio will be lost and distorted. The discharge time constant must be large enough, though, that it removes the IF frequency of 455 kilohertz and leaves only the audio. The purpose of the automatic gain control circuit, or AGC, is to maintain a constant level at the detector regardless of the strength of the incoming signal. If we didn't have AGC, the volume control would have to be constantly adjusted for each station, and moderately strong stations would clip the final IF amplifier, causing distortion. AGC is accomplished by adjusting the DC bias of the first IF amplifier to lower its gain as the signal strength increases. The audio is actually riding on a negative DC voltage when strong signals are encountered. This negative DC component corresponds to the strength of the incoming signal, and the larger the signal, the more negative the component. At test point 5, the audio is removed by a low-pass filter of R36 and C32, leaving only the DC. Resistor R35 is used to shift the voltage at TP5 high enough to bias the base of transistor Q8 to its full gain position when no signal is present. Resistors R35 and R36 also forward bias diode D4 just enough to minimize on-condition threshold voltages. If you'd like to build along, you can get the kit from parts-express.com. It's part number 320-084. And next week, we'll be back for some more excitement there. Hopefully, it'll be a little more smoke and solderish. That one, I don't know. I've had a cold this week, so I did good to get through that. But I'm looking for a better oscillator I can get a little more modulation out of, and we can continue on with that project. You know, last week I asked the question, where in the world is Bob Heil? And the winner is going to receive a copy of Jerry Busting's Constructing HF Wire Antennas book. And that lucky winner is Ray Ingram, into ARG. He said Bob is at the NAB convention in Las Vegas, and that's correct. That's exactly where Bob was last week. Where is Bob this week? I don't really know. He's on the road with Joe Walsh is all I know, so no telling where those two guys are, but Bob will be back with us next week. And speaking of next week, I've got another one of these 24-hour MFJ clocks that's mighty convenient to have in your ham shack. If you'd like to win that, well, answer this for me. What is the IF frequency of a typical AM broadcast receiver? If you know the answer to that, Well, just drop me a line at hamnationcontest@gmail.com, and you could be next week's lucky winner. Now, there's one more contest going on I just want to remind you about. Icom is giving away an IC7200, this nice little rig over here. This one's going to have a custom paint job from the Gigaparts Custom Shop on it. It's going to be this military olive drab color, or it's going to be Vietnam era camouflage, or the digital desert camouflage. It'll be the choice of whoever wins it. It's a field day contest, and lots of great prizes there. Full setup to get someone on the air for field day with this great Icom rig, some good accessories from Gigaparts, as well as MFJ Enterprises with their big ear antenna here that'll cover multiple bands, get you set up quick and operating on field day. To learn more about that, go check out the latest episode of AmateurLogic.tv, where Tommy and I talk a little bit about this. And you can also go to AmateurLogic.tv/contest and see all the great prizes. And Bob Heil is going to be throwing in something on here as well. I think maybe it's a pro set. I'm not sure yet, but he's going to have something special to go into that package too. So thanks everyone for that, and be sure to go get your name in the hat, because they're not going to let me keep this stuff. I've got to give it away. Well, I guess it's time that we need to get Cheryl on here with the chat room. Cheryl, what is going on in Illinois tonight?
Hi, George, and hi, everyone out there. Nice to have you in the chat room. I'm having a lot of fun chatting around with everybody here. And a good evening to Ray and everybody else that's going to be in the podcast. Hi to you guys for listening too. You know, we have a lot of rain up here this afternoon. It's just deluging and just terrible, and some hail was this afternoon. So I'm thinking there might be a little static crashes on the band, but other than that, we're holding the fort okay there, George. I hope it's good on your end too. There's quite a few things I really wanted to say. I have a surprise. N7HRO. He said, did I get his QSL card? I said, you'll have to wait and see. Did I get it? I guess I did. There it is. I'm sorry that I can't line it up so well for the camera. I guess I'm not good at that yet somehow. But there it is. And thank you for your card. I appreciate you mailing that to me. So we have some questions that have drizzled in, a lot more than one, and they have been going to town and then some. So there's some good ones in here for you, George. There's what caught my eye here is there's a little bit of possible slang questions involved here, so I'm going to ad lib a little bit. VE3MIC Mike, he says, someone asked George if a girdle spring is used in that AM detector circuit, and I said, to get that diode only past the negative side so you don't have distortion, or what? I mean, that was your last video. Do you use a girdle spring, and have you heard that phrase before?
I am familiar with that phrase. It seems so. Maybe I heard it around last April the 1st, sometime around then. I have not run across a girdle spring in the kit here, but there's more building yet to be done, so who knows?
All right, thank you. And one more on the same vein, in the same vein, believe it or not, Steve, that would be KB9FQJ. He says, ask George, what is a cat's whisker detector?
Cat whisker detector is a piece of crystal that's in a little holder, and it has a little, they call it a cat whisker, I guess, because it's just a little piece of wire that goes down there and touches on the spot of the crystal there to make a diode junction. Have I got that right, Gordo?
Yeah, no, I think you do, and I have a cat whisker here that I'll show you on the workbench. There you are.
Awesome.
It was
Meow,
upside
meow.
down, but that's a cat whisker. Go ahead, George.
Okay. Is that good enough, Cheryl?
That pretty much will cover it. Thanks, Gordo. Thank you, George, for that. Now, there was one other little quick announcement from N2TXG. He says, please mention later the battleship USS New Jersey will be on the air April 21st from 1700 to 2000 UTC. Call sign is NJ N2BB, the Gloucester County Amateur Radio Club, and N2TXG will be guest operators that day. And that would be Dan, N2TXG. I thought I'd get that out there for him real quick. And looks like there's some good ones in here for Tim. So, Mr. Duffy, hello, good evening to you.
Hey, Cheryl, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Hi, Ray.
Good evening.
I wanted to find out for Chris, N8OXC, he says, what radio do you use for contesting?
Oh,
well, go ahead. You're in the hot seat now.
You know, I've tried a lot of radios over the years, and we have settled on Icom radios, and we've been very, very happy with the Icom 7800 and the Icom 7700. So that's what we're using, Cheryl, and we've had a lot of luck with that radio.
It's a nice sounding radio, has very nice audio, by the way.
Yes.
Absolutely. Nice solid presence on the air. Anyhow, there was one more for you too, Mr. Duffy.
Yes.
I wanted to know. It's about, it's DL1QQ. Very interesting call sign. He says, question for Tim. When was the last time you took part in a contest in low power in the QRP category?
Oh, well, in low power, which low power would be 100 watts. So, and I think DL1QQ is a YL from Germany. And so that would be in the WPX contest a few weeks ago. At the end of March, I ran 100 watts.
Now, was that from Oklahoma or from
That was from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it is very, very interesting to do that, and I enjoy low power contesting just as much as running the legal limit.
Yep.
Great. Thank you for that answer. And this one's I'm gonna pose this question to you, Gordo, but I want to just say one little thing because it was interesting. I know your answer is going to vary from this. We had a chat roomer asking a question, and of course they like to chime in with an answer. So I'm going to give credit to the person who gave the answer too, but it was kind of cute. I know you can expound on this, Gordo, so put your answer cap on for this one. We have Chumley. He says he's new and he just wants to know where to study up on an antenna. He's got an Icom ICV8000. That was my very first radio, by the way, I had put in the car when I first became a ham. Nice choice. 70, I think it's 75 watts if I'm not mistaken. V8000 on hold, and we'll use it stationary for now. Thanks to Gordo, I'll have my tech license. Thank you, Gordo. And call signs by mid-June. His test is next month. He thought it might be too easy of a question. I assured him that there's no such thing as too easy of a question. But KF4UTH Tom says the ARRL has an antenna handbook that will help you for many years, which is always a good thing. And there are articles on the web about every type of antenna you can conceive. So thank you, Tom, for answering that. But Gordo, I know you have a lot of information, and could you please expound on that for Chumley?
Well, that 8,000 is really going to put out quite a signal. So he needs to go with a good professional antenna because that thing puts out, gosh, close to 75, 80 watts, and he'll roast any little teeny antenna. So I would go with a fixed mount, and if it's for mobile, I would do a hatch mount, and both Comet and Diamond make wonderful hatch mount antenna sockets that will hold up a nice 5/8 wave or a dual band antenna, or even some half-wave antennas. And the antenna hub that I have here is good for mounting on a pole, and you can provide little ground planes to that. And we'll be talking more about the antenna hub next week. It's called the Alpha Hub, and it's a great performer. So almost anything. But the deal is get that antenna up and in the clear, because at 75 watts, you're 25 watts beyond the 50-watt limit where you don't need to worry about doing a site survey. And the MPE on that radio is going to put out quite a signal. So get the antenna at least 3 feet away from anybody sitting in the back seat. Back to you, Cheryl.
You got it, Gordo. That was great. That is so true. That antenna is a big deal. I did have the lip mount antenna for my V8000 on the Corolla. It really worked out well, a super gainer. So I'll tell you, it really went to town. The antenna is always an important part of your system anyhow. And another one for you, Gordo. It's, I'm going to throw this one at you and see if this one rings a bell. NA5C, Steve, he says, whatever happened to AMSAT Phase 3D, which is some sort of satellite? So do you have any information on that, perhaps?
Well, we're hoping that AMSAT will finally be able to get that, what would be a geosynchronous satellite in orbit. But you know, AMSAT needs all of our support to keep those satellites up. We're learning more about the aggressive AMSAT programs, and we're going to learn more at Dayton during some of the seminars. So ask me in about 3 weeks, and then we'll know when there might be a geosynchronous satellite in our future, but I wouldn't hold our breath. It's probably a couple of years away.
Awesome answer. Excellent. Maybe we should do a little follow-up. I'll put a note here, and maybe after that we'll bring it back up again for further discussion. That could be fun. And we had a one person in the chat room, Dave, KK4 GBC. He says, "This is a great question, but I'm going to answer it by Bill Pasternak, which I thought was the cutest in the whole wide world." Was Don, our very own Don Wilbanks, he says, was Don ever a radio DJ? He has a good radio voice. So Bill comes back and he says, Don was not a DJ. He still is. So that was so cute. I love that. Thank you very much for the answer there, Bill. Yes, Don does a really great job for Newsline and various other tasks that he does also. So, and here's an antenna question. I'd like to pose this to you, George. We have a KD0 SAS, a Corey. He says, does a dipole need to be mounted on flat ground, or will a slope work? Back to you.
Dipole. Well, yeah, a slope will work. I mean, whatever you got is going to be better than nothing, but I don't see why it wouldn't. Might change the takeoff angle slightly on it, but I don't see that as being a major problem. There might be someone who can straighten me out on that, though. Tim, what do you think about that?
You know, I like horizontal antennas, so I like a dipole that is in the clear. That's the most important thing, is to get it away from as many objects and trees as possible. And, you know, this is a great topic, George, because this time of the year is when, you know, spring and warmer weather, so guys are outside with antennas, and the first rule is to stay away from power lines. It's really sad. Every year, a couple of guys get involved with antennas and a power line at the same time. And so we want to make sure that everybody is safe putting up their dipoles. A sloper is a great antenna if you can get it in the clear and get it away from other objects. I think it'll work great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cheryl, have you got one more there before we wrap it up here?
There is one more question. That's the question of the evening, but I just wanted to say I'm not sure if the vantage point for Corey was if the antenna could be sloped, but if the ground was sloped underneath, because he said on flat ground, or will a slope work? I think he meant would it still operate good on a flat ground rather than a hill or a mountain, or would it still uneven terrain? I should have probably rephrased for you, but I don't think it would have an effect, but I'm not sure. So I'll have to ask that at a later date, because here's the big question of the night. Any good ideas for setting up portable in and out of hotels for the frequent road warrior, which is so true, for working a little HF? Already got a FT817 ND and a Miracle Whip, but that thing is obviously only good for listening in most cases. So any ideas for portable for hotel travel? And I'll ask you, Gordo, for that one. Over to you.
Okay. Well, I think George has got one right there behind him, and that's the buddy pole. And is that it, George? That's the buddy pole?
Well, this is actually called the Big Ear. This is MFJ's version. It's got two telescopic whips that'll go out to 18 foot each, and then there's a coil here where you can tune it as well as adjusting the whips for resonance. But yeah, that would make a great one. If you might get some strange looks though with you know, that's giant rabbit ears, Gordo.
Well, you're
Yes.
right about that. And there's not many hotels these days that still have windows that open up. So, Cheryl,
true.
anything sticking out that window is certainly going to help. And to get this one correct, this was the antenna node hub. There we go, antenna node hub that allows for all sorts of antennas to be screwed into the 3/8/24 threads. We'll give you more info about this next week. Well, George, I'm going to let you wrap it up. I'm going to go ahead and say 73. We sure look forward to hearing you on the net on, looks like 7272. Punch it up here on the Icom, and we've actually got twin Icoms. They're both working great, so hope to work you on one or the other. Back to you, George. Thanks, Cheryl, Tim, and
you're welcome.
Ray. Good to see you.
All right, thanks, Gordo. Yeah, Cheryl, thanks for being with us tonight. That was some good questions, and I'm glad we had a little time we could ask everyone something tonight. So we'll see you back again next week, Cheryl.
Sounds good. I plan to be here to join you guys. It's a lot of fun. And please join me for the 3847 after show QSO. You have a little bit of a different radio. I'd like to have you check in and give me your report, okay? 3847 tonight, guys. Thanks. 73 from Northeastern Illinois. Ciao.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. And Gordo, I know that you've got something special for us next week. I don't know what it is, but promise me it won't be as special as it was last week.
I promise.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Tim and Ray, we're glad y'all could be with us from Petaluma tonight, and sorry to hear the shootout there on the noise. Didn't work out this time. I tell you, that's a tough case out there, but we really appreciate you guys going out there and trying it to get it where Leo can get on that radio and get some use out of it. And I'll be looking forward to seeing both of y'all in Dayton next month.
Yeah, definitely be there at Dayton. And for those in the chat room that were commenting about remoting it, Leo really wants to be right there with the radio instead of it being a remote location. So that was our goal, was trying to see what we could do and make it happen here.
So, you know, we've exhausted our efforts here, and we'll go on to the next chapter. But I think that the chat room on the remote, there's a lot of guys having a lot of success with remote. And before we go, Ray, the chat room's really asking about the IC 7100.
The 7100, we're going to be probably seeing it at the end of May, beginning of June. So we're hoping to be ready for Dayton, but we'll have a few samples there to play with, but nothing for anybody to buy at that point.
Okay. Well, thanks again, George. It's been a great show, and we really enjoyed being on here from the TWiT Brick House.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, guys. Great to see y'all again. Well, that's it, everyone. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll be back next week with Bob Hall in the captain's chair. 7-3.
73, everyone. Hear you on 7272 and other frequencies.